Hello once again and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Many of us take for granted our ability to speak. For some, it's not so easy to put words together. Stuttering, also called stammering, is a speech disorder characterized by frequent disruptions to the normal flow and fluency of speech. These may manifest as involuntary repetitions, prolongation of sounds, and silent pauses. According to the International Stuttering Association, globally, more than 70 million people stutter, which is 1% of the world's population. It affects 4 times as many males as females. My guest is a speech and language pathologist and principal consultant at Easy Speech Center in Lagos. She's a member of both the American Speech and Hearing Association and the Medical Rehabilitation Therapists Board of Nigeria. Welcome, Patricia Oranyi. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Why do children stutter? I notice it's, more prevalent with children. Why do they stammer?
Okay, there's what you call developmental stuttering. Now, this starts when children are between the ages of 2 and 6 years. And why is this so? Because at this age, children start learning language. Now, language has a period where it's become so big, there's an outburst of language. And at this point, children's language become more complex. And in the process of them wanting to imitate speech and language, they tend to stutter.
So it's just a fallout of the learning process.
Exactly, exactly. So you see more of that within that age range when children are between 2 and 6 years. But over time, if children's speech and language doesn't get better, doesn't improve after they turn 6, then you can now say, okay, there's a problem with stuttering. So we wouldn't really say it's stuttering at this stage, but when it now persists till when they turn 6 years and above, yes.
And then that's when you begin to count the 1%.
Yes, exactly.
They are the ones who didn't stop at the age of 6.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so is it caused by some sort of disruption between the messages coming from the brain to the throat, or what? To the muscles?
Yes, there's a kind of disconnect somewhere between the brain and the muscles of speech. And when there's this disconnect, that is what causes the stuttering. Yeah.
Okay. So do they have particular words on which they stutter? I know consonants can be very bad sometimes, but are there particular sounds, particular words that people stutter on, and maybe the other ones are not so bad?
Okay, first of all, at this period when children start stuttering, when they start making 1-2 word utterances, you don't get any stutter. But when sentences start getting longer and more complex, that is when you start, having those stuttering episodes. And stuttering too could, come in form of, they can have problems with consonants, they can have problems with vowels, but we have more of them stuttering at vowel sounds.
Okay.
Yes. So you have more of that stuttering vowel sounds, but you also get, a lot of them with problems with sounds, initial sounds, with words. There are hesitations, just like you mentioned, and you can't really say for sure it's for this particular sound, that children can get those stuttering episodes from.
So are you saying that if a child is stuttering, nobody should be bothered or take the child to a speech pathologist until maybe he's 6?
Yes, by the time the child is 2 and sentences are starting to come out, they're starting to make more words, they're starting to make more phrases, then, and when they start having periods of disfluencies, now as a parent, I would advise you to wait for about 6 months before you now take that child for an evaluation. More so if those stuttering episodes are, they come along with some what you call non-speech behaviors, like facial tics.
Okay.
When it comes with tremors in the lips and you have tensions in the oral structures, now you can now start, looking forward to making appointments to see a doctor.
How does a regular parent define or recognize tension in oral structures?
Well, first of all, if you look at the lips, you see that there is some kind of a block. You know, you see that the child has some tremors. You see the lips are trembling when they're starting to, you know, to speak. So when parents notice that and they see that the child has rapid eye blinks, and the child is, you know, generally uncomfortable when he or she is making speech, it's better, you take note of that and then get the child to see a doctor.
Does this get pronounced maybe in stressful situations or uncomfortable situations, or maybe when the person is meeting someone for the first time, nervousness?
In fact, a lot of different situations could trigger stuttering. First of all, in an environment, a home environment where children are not relaxed, you know, there's a lot of demand placed on them by parents to speak as well as the other child, a child that is not having as much difficulties. When the demand is placed so highly on the child, it could trigger stuttering. So in the bid to make the parents happy, the child is put so much under pressure. The child is tensed up, the child is anxious. Those situations would actually trigger stuttering.
What if the pressure is not on trying to make the child speak, but the pressure is on academic performance, for example? Could that trigger a stutter?
Yes, it definitely could, especially regarding the kind of language parents use when you try to put a child down because the child is not performing academically as well as it should. And, you know, your tone of language, the way children are very good at reading body language. So when your body language is such that it is, you're kind of trying to put the child down, and, you know, you get that child to start getting very scared, very tensed, and in response to your questions or in response to communicating with you, the child starts, yes. And then there's also...
that irritates the parent even further.
Even further, yes, yes. And some of the things that we also recommend, you know, when we have instances where parents come to us for therapies, there is what we call reducing demand speech.
Okay.
Now, what this means is you reduce the amount of questions you ask a child.
Okay.
You know, when you ask a child so many questions, especially children that are just starting to speak, it places so much demand on their language, and then they get to stutter. So rather comment on when you're having conversations, especially regarding academics, you could make comments, not ask questions. Why are you doing? Why is your why?
Why are you second?
Why are you second? Do you have to?
Somebody came first.
Do they have two heads? You know, stuff like that.
Yes.
You know, so rather you just make comments. Oh, I see that this. I think that. You know, when you make such comments, the child is relaxed. He's not under pressure, and you find that stuttering moments would reduce. Yes.
Now, solve this mystery. There are some stutterers. They are terrible when they're trying to say something. It's so bad. But when they sing, you're in shock. How come they sing so well without a stutter, but they can't talk?
Yes, because that's a very interesting question, because people have also asked that when you sing, even when you whisper, when you talk to your pets, or when you're in a very relaxed environment, you don't stop.
You're fine.
You're fine, yes. Now, when you sing, you don't use the left side of your brain, which is the left hemisphere. Singing is actually directed using the right hemisphere of the brain.
Singing, right hemisphere.
Yeah, so it's actually different. And apart from that, when you sing, you know, you take breath in between songs, even before you start. So some of the therapy sessions that we also give out to individuals who stutter is the ability to control their breathing. Okay. So when you breathe, you take in enough air. So when you're trying to breathe out, the word comes and flows out easily. So you find that when they're stuttering, it's those that stutter when they sing, because they now have enough breath support, they're able to sing without stuttering. So that explains.
I would have thought that singing would place more demand on your vocal
It
cords.
doesn't. It doesn't. And another thing, you already know the words, the wordings of the song.
Yes, you know the words to the song.
Yeah, you know that. So it's easy. You don't have so much demand. You don't think about what you need to say, and the words are there, and then you have enough breath support.
Okay, apart from this breathing, but before I get to that even, the people who don't stutter, is it that their breathing pattern is better than the stutterers, so they have to be taught, or it's something extra, something special to help the stutterers?
Okay, yeah. Stuttering, remember what we said initially, that it occurs when there is a disconnect somewhere in the brain.
Okay.
So research, shows that when people stutter, there's a part of the brain responsible for speech that has some disconnect somewhere. There's a disconnect between the side of the brain responsible for speech and then the organs of speech. So when there is that, you find people who stutter. For people that don't stutter, they don't have those issues. They don't have those problems with their brains and then with the areas of speech. And also everything is just, the way it should be. So, but with stutterers, it's a different ball game entirely.
Okay, you mentioned breathing techniques. You've also mentioned the person being relaxed and by virtue of that, speaking better. Are there other methods of helping a stutterer? For example, is there any medical thing, injection, tabs, meditation? Are there other things that are done? Because, a parent could say, okay, fine, I will help this child. I will teach him breathing techniques and I will make him relax, and it doesn't work. So are there other things that sometimes have to come in?
Yes, for children, we have different techniques that they can use. Now, for the speech therapy sessions you have for a child is different from the one for an adult.
For adults, okay.
Yeah, for children, first of all, what we do is start off with teaching them how speech is produced, your organs of speech, what happens when you talk, phonation, voice production. So we just use very elementary and very rudimentary means to teach them educate them on organs of speech and show them the differences between smooth and bumpy. That's the word we use.
Even we don't know that.
Okay.
Smooth and bumpy.
Yeah, for children, we just tell them, okay, listen, this is a smooth voice, this is a bumpy voice. So once they now start knowing the difference, they say, oh, so sometimes my speech is bumpy. And this is what I need to do. And then we teach, apart from the breathing, we teach them other techniques. There's what you call the yawn sigh. The yawn sigh is, you breathe in as if you're yawning, and then you exhale. And then as you're exhaling, there's certain sounds that you have to say when you're exhaling.
Okay, I've got to stop you there. We're going for a short break.
Okay.
We'll be back soon. Stay with us till the other side. Welcome back. We're talking about stuttering or stammering. You can call 0805 468 3514. That's 0805 468 3514. Or you can tweet at CTV_Mary A. Now, let's spare a thought, for those listening to the stutterers. Somebody is trying to tell you something and he's just hitting the same phrase over and over again. Minutes are passing. We know it makes them feel uncomfortable. They're not happy. But the listener is not happy either. The listener is trying to see, okay, that's the reasonable ones, not the ones who are laughing. Can I help him complete this sentence? Can I make it easier for him? So everybody's uncomfortable, both the talker and the listener. What's your advice to somebody who has to listen to a stammerer get through a sentence? What should they do?
Okay, first of all, for the person listening, we have to just tell the person listening that we all have periods of disfluencies. We are all guilty of it. Sometimes when you're talking, you find yourself saying, those are periods of disfluencies, and which, we also need to, understand. And when you find someone who is stuttering, first of all, don't try to complete their sentence. You know, give them time, give them patience. I mean, be patient with them to finish up what it is they're saying, even though it's not easy. And don't make it look as if they don't need your pity. You know,
okay,
that's
they
another
don't want
thing.
your pity.
No, they don't want it. They want you to just give them the time to finish up what it is they're saying, and encourage them to, you know, to try as much as possible to slow down.
You shouldn't make them stop and take a breath.
They could stop, yeah, they could take a breath, they could slow down their pace of speech. And if there are instances where they are tensed up or, you know, not relaxed, just give them time to do that, and they can continue with their sentence.
In your experience, is it easier to treat a child or an adult?
For children, it's easier to treat children, you know, because children are very, they are very easy to play with, they're easy to work with, and they are, I'm not saying adults aren't, but children, when you show them what stuttering is, when you educate them and then you try to show them, okay, this is what happens, this is what you need to do, you find a lot of successes, especially when the stuttering is caught early.
Okay, so it's better to get there in time.
Yes, it's better to get them in early and work with them. You record a lot of successes when children have started therapy much earlier than an adult. For an adult, there is no cure. When an adult, yes,
okay.
When
so
an adult,
define what you mean by adult then.
An adult is from 16, 17, 18.
The stuttering doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
But
you just
it can be managed.
Yes, you can manage it.
So if a person comes before 14, 15, can you eliminate it?
You can't completely eliminate stuttering. You can also manage it. Remember, there is a period 2 to 6 years that I mentioned earlier on, where, you know, children start stuttering
because they're learning language.
Because they're learning language. Now, when you now have children at that age now that have started stuttering, when the disfluencies have become so much now that, you know, therapy is needed, then once therapy starts, is repetitive, it's intensive, there is a very high probability that you're going to completely manage stuttering to the point that the child, because the child has mastered stuttering moments, is able to catch those moments of stuttering, which are things that we also talk about in therapy. You find that sometimes when they even talk, you hardly know that.
So they know when it's going to come.
They have to be
taught.
They can
handle it.
Yes, they're going to be taught those moments when stuttering occurs, and you know that will also help with management.
But of course, you don't get results immediately when you get somebody. So what do you tell the person? How do you teach the child to handle people who tease them, people who make fun of them? Because that always happens. Yes. When there's a fight, they say, oh, you that can't put 2 words together, you stammerer and stuff like that. Do you have to also teach them how to handle that? Yes,
that's one of the goals of therapy. And that goal is called desensitization, okay? Now, in this therapy, in this particular goal, we teach the children how to establish a positive attitude towards their stuttering. One of the examples of desensitization is disclosure, where you just tell the child to, before he starts speaking, he should just come out and say, hey, look, I stutter.
Okay, so the person is prepared.
So the person is prepared.
You brought out your worst anyway.
Yes, so even when you insult me and you say, I mean, I know it, it's like, you know, when when you have a bull leg or something and you just, people are laughing at you, before you do something, you say, look at me, this is who I am. That way, when someone abuses you, it's, you know, it doesn't. So those are some of the things that we teach children during therapy. And we also do what you call voluntary stuttering. It's also one of the targets that we walk during therapy. And
voluntary?
Yes,
they
yes.
bring it on themselves?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. What this does is, when children do that, when we teach them how to voluntarily stutter, they're able to catch stuttering moments. Okay, they find that they've now become very conscious of their speech. They become very conscious of what it is they're saying during sessions. And before you know it now, when they want to now stutter, because they've done it voluntarily, because stuttering is involuntary, but the time they now do it, you find that they're able to arrest those situations that could cause. So those are some of the therapies, strategies that we use in therapy to help with stuttering.
Have you come again up against any really unreasonable unreasonable things people have done to stop their stuttering? Do people try and handle it by themselves and just do the wrong thing?
People have tried to just do breathing exercises, thinking that breathing will stop therapy, or there's some myth that you know are associated with stuttering, where people will say you shouldn't look at a pregnant woman at night, and so people go ahead and don't do that. Yes, just to stop. You know, you asked me something crazy someone can do.
It's really crazy.
I've heard, yes. So people do, you know, some silly things that, you know, they do. They think that when they do that, the stuttering will just go away, but it doesn't just go away overnight. You know, it's something.
What's the connection between a hearing aid and stuttering? Does it affect their hearing, or is that a particular type of therapy?
A hearing aid?
Yes. Something they put in the ear for them to speak well.
Okay, that's easy. Speak Easy device. That's one of an electronic device that is being used now to help with stuttering.
Okay.
Yeah, that device, you know, it's like you plug it into your ears, and what it does is gives you what you call a feedback. It's a kind of feedback mechanism where when you put it on, it gives you the impression that you're talking in unison with another person.
Okay.
And talking in unison with another person will give you that sense that you're not stuttering. So it's a device that is currently, you know, being used, you know, abroad to help with stuttering, and people have recorded
success with it. So I imagine a lot of research is going on.
Yes, it's actually going on. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Patricia Oranyi, for coming to the show.
Yes, thank you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for being there with us. You back at home. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.